Welcome back to Winterverse. I'm Andrew, and today I'm playing Marvel United. I'm going to be playing with the heroes Multiple Man, Blink, Marrow, and Nightcrawler. So they're starting out here at the Morlock Tunnels. They're facing off against the Brotherhood, or at least Toad, Pyro, and Blob over there. We got their villain dashboard in the middle. And if you haven't played Marvel United before, I'll be kind of talking through it as I play. Hopefully you can follow along, even though this won't be a full tutorial. I do have another Marvel United video on my channel from a while back. I don't necessarily recommend it. The quality was pretty medium to low. But I wanted to bring it out again because, well, a lot has happened with Marvel United since then. First of all, I got my full Wave 2 X-Men stuff a while back. Painted up some of the characters. So this is a pretty big percentage of the ones I've painted are on camera right now. But CMON is also running a campaign for a season 3 of Marvel United right now. And as this video goes live, assuming I get up when I want to, there should be about 11 hours left of the campaign. So if you somehow weren't familiar with it before and this looks interesting, you can go check it out. They'll probably have a pledge manager open for a few months after that, assuming you're not watching this the same day that this video goes up. And even though most of the X-Men Wave, which was the Wave 2 stuff, is not available in Season 3, all of the characters on camera here are from the promo box, which is available for purchase in the Season 3 campaign. Personally, I haven't decided yet how much of Season 3, if any, I want to back, because I'm pretty happy with just a primarily X-Men only collection. Season 3 does add to that, and that's why it's very tempting, but they've also mixed in a ton of stuff I don't necessarily want for an X-Men only collection. I mean, I'd be happy to get everything, except for that it's expensive. So I figured choosing my favorite team, even though that team is very large and an entire franchise unto itself, was a way to split the difference there. But anyway, let's get started. So each of those 3 villains has their own health. And it may not sound like much, but Blob has 5, Toad and Pyro both have 4, and that adds up to 13, which seems kind of high, even though I am playing a 4-character game. And I'm not sure, but I'm thinking, because like if you look at the core box villains, they've got like 8 to 10 health, and these have 13. Higher than Juggernaut, higher than Magneto. I mean, there are 3 of them, but mechanically speaking, I've got to be able to win, right? And I'm thinking that maybe the reason that is that they only resolve their BAM effects, or their bad stuff, 1 or 2 of them at a time, I think. And so if we take them out, that will limit how much they can do, maybe. But on the other hand, we also can't take any of them out because you can't damage any villains until we've at least completed 2 of these missions. So who knows what's going to happen, but I'm going to start out with the villain team, the villain turn as normal by drawing 1 card from this master plan deck. And it is a Toad and Blob card. And it says that Toad is going to move 3 spaces and Blob is going to move 0, and then they're both going to BAM. In addition to that, Spreading Terror says add a civilian in every location with no villain. And then you can see the different BAM effects for the 3 different villains here. At the top is Toad, which we are going to have to resolve, that Toad moves a hero from an adjacent location to his location and then deals 1 damage to them. And Blob's is going to be to deal damage to each hero at his location. Pyro would be to put crisis tokens in adjacent locations, but we're not resolving Pyro this time. And because Pyro is Pyro, these are the normal crisis tokens, but I've decided to use these from a game called Yashima, Legend of the Kami Masters. I happen to have, I think those will make good Pyro crisis tokens. Let's go ahead and resolve Blob's movement is going to be 0. We can resolve his BAM effect now, which is going to be he damages every hero in his location, which is nobody. So as you can see, the heroes started way over here at the Morlock Tunnels. Blob is at Genosha. Toad is going to move 3. Movement is clockwise, so it's going to go 1, 2, and 3 over to Mirror Island, where he will then BAM, and his BAM effect is move an adjacent hero to him, but there are no adjacent heroes. So that actually worked out pretty well. We do have to resolve Spreading Terror, which is to add a civilian in every location without a villain, which is going to be Strife's Secret Base, Krakoa, and the Morlock Tunnels. And I will say that these tokens that I'm using are not from the base game or any stretch goal or add-on. These are from the Game Crafter. So with that, I can start a hero turn. I haven't decided who I want to go first. So here I've got Multiple Man's deck, and I can see I put this starting hand card on top. This is one of the special cards. The mutants added that they all have a special power that they can start with. So Multiple Man starts with this card every time, along with a couple other cards. Nightcrawler does not have one of those, so I'll just draw 3 from his shuffle deck. And Blink and Marrow are on the other side of the table, so I have to lean all the way across. So I just went ahead and revealed their cards, so hopefully I can see them from here. And I gotta say, I might have not built a good team. I just picked characters I like, but I think I'm gonna have too much mobility. So Blink and Nightcrawler are both teleporters, and Multiple Man has the ability to effectively be multiple places at the same time. So if you haven't played before, a couple of things that I'm worrying about here. First of all, these civilians and thugs with the red ones are at all these 6 locations. I have to be careful that they don't fill up the number of allocated spaces per location, because if I need to place them and there's no room, we have what's called an overflow, which is a bad thing. Well, I'm done with this card, so I'm going to move this to the bottom of that deck. Another thing that I need to worry about is I am going to need to complete 2 of these missions before I can start damaging any villains. The missions are conveniently linked to what I just mentioned, which is clearing out civilians and thugs. The more civilians we rescue, the more spots on this card we can fill up, 9, and we complete it. 9 thugs defeated fills up this card. And then the third card is clear threats. Now their positions don't matter. It just matters that there's 3 of them. But clear threats has 4 spots that get filled up by clearing out these cards that are at the bottom of the location. We have 2 of this card called Leaping Foothold, which basically says Toad can't take damage as long as he has a foothold to jump to. He can avoid all the damage. There are 2 of these flammable materials cards, one here and one here, happen to be adjacent, that make the fires more difficult to put out. No fires yet, but I'm sure they're coming. And Blob has 2 cards called Solid Ground, which makes it harder to leave Blob's space if he's on solid ground. In addition, we can't damage him while he's on solid ground. So I'm thinking we're going to need a lot of these heroic symbols. We are going to have to clean out the Leaping Foothold in order to beat Toad eventually, but I feel like the flammable materials are scarier. In addition to that, when one of these cards is removed, it reveals an ability from the location. And I just kind of shuffled some of the cards that I have for these locations from a couple of different expansions and dealt them out. But 2 of the locations I got actually have negative abilities when they're revealed. So I'm actually okay leaving the crises there as long as possible. Or not crises, but threats. Strife's secret base is a negative. If you discard an action token, you end your turn there if this is removed. I think I'm going to start with Nightcrawler. I don't know if that's necessary, but the first thing you do on a player's turn is you draw a card, so he's going to get a 4th card here. And as you can see, a lot of his cards have this BAMF on guard text, or BAMF, fear no evil in this case, that he must move to any other location. So it's a benefit and a cost. He has to move, but it can be anywhere. And I'm going to start out with this fear no evil card. It's going to move to any other location, and he's going to get 2 heroic symbols, which he can spend or must spend this turn. Or rather, for the purpose of clarity, he doesn't have to spend them, but he cannot save them. So the must move to any location, we're going to send him here to Krakoa. And then with those 2 heroic symbols, I'm going to place 2 progress on this threat. Or maybe it makes sense to clear 1 civilian. We're going to have to make sure it doesn't fill up. And then this card goes into our timeline circle. And the playmat actually indicates that it's going to go way over there where you won't be able to see it. But these cards that we play are going to go around in a circle. I don't think there's a huge reason for that other than that it's kind of fun. And you can also keep visual track of what was done, in part because the next player to go gets to use those 2 heroic symbols. They don't get to use the top special ability, but they do get to use the 2 heroic that Nightcrawler generated. And once I've selected Nightcrawler, I'm just going to go clockwise. I think you can choose the first player, but after that, you have a set turn order. So we'll go to Multiple Man next and draw a card for him. And a lot of his cards have to do with his duplicates. So he has the ability to make duplicates of himself. And in this game, he's going to be leaving them around the board. They will take up spots on those locations that we were worried about. But this is his special card here, the starting hand card. And may as well lead off with that. So kinetic duplication, as long as this card is face up in the storyline, storyline being the circle around the board, once per turn you can place a dupe token in your location. It functions as a civilian. You may use heroic and attack actions as if you were in any dupe's location. In addition, it's going to provide this symbol here, which is a wild, which can be used as a move, heroic, or attack. So I'll play that into the storyline next to Nightcrawler's card. And some villains will mess with the cards that have been played. I don't think the villains here are going to do that. So for the rest of the game, multiple man will have the ability to drop dupes down. And this is what they look like. Just little tokens here. They're actually the same size and form factor as the normal civilian and thug tokens that I've replaced with these guys. So they would fit right in. In this case, they're not going to fit in, but I'm going to spend the wild as a move to move over to Krakoa along with Nightcrawler. Then I'm going to drop a dupe, put it right there. So I'm not sure if the position matters. And then he, like I said, he gets to use the 2 heroic symbols that Nightcrawler generated. Could have actually dropped the dupe here because all of the symbols and abilities you can do on pretty much any sequence. So you know what? Let's drop the dupe where we were instead and then spend 2 heroic, but now we can spend them between here and here. But I think I like the idea of putting 2 more onto this, which will immediately complete it now that it has 3 of those tokens on it. So flammable materials is filled up. It gets to be cleared out, and that reveals this new end of turn ability. You may move all heroes from this location to another location using the X-Men's Krakoan gates. In addition, this token gets to come off, and we've just made progress on the Clear Threats mission. Multiple Man now ends his turn, and because of that Krakoan gate, Nightcrawler and Multiple Man could go anywhere. I think I will move Multiple Man. Oh, it says you may move all. So we can't leave anybody. If anybody moves, they all have to move. Doesn't say you may move some. So I'll move Nightcrawler as well. And I'm going to have them join Pyro, not because I want them to be with Pyro, but because I'm thinking that if Pyro activates, he will probably move first. At least that's what I'm hoping. Next up is Blink, and these are the 4 cards we've got, the 3 starting and 1 that I just drew. And you can see none of them have any special ability text. She does have special ability cards in her deck. They all say the same thing, which is you can move any number of your heroes somewhere else. Basically, she can pull the whole team together. At least I think. We'll have to reread it when it comes out, but that's clearly not an option right now. Just a bunch of symbols. You can see one of the strongest cards that everybody has is the double wild. So if you're playing on a advanced difficulty, which I'm not, you would remove that from your deck. And then the weakest card that people have tend to be these single icon cards. You avoid playing as long as possible. And in fact, the way you take damage in this game is by having to discard a card. So that would be the perfect opportunity to discard one of these single icon cards. And the double heroic that Nightcrawler played and Multiple Man benefited from is now done. Blink will now be playing and keying off of Multiple Man's card, which provides only a single wild symbol. So whatever she plays, she's going to do that plus a single wild. We definitely need to clear some out of the Morlock tunnels here. So I think I can play this card, make a heroic and an attack, which can clear one of each of these. And she still has the wild from Multiple Man. I think that'll make that also an attack. With the amount of mobility that is on this team, I don't want to spend wilds as movement. And because we have so many stars we need to clear out, I mean, we don't have to clear them all, but we need to clear at least the 2 toad ones eventually. So I'll spend attacks on attacks. Or maybe I should, no, maybe that's an argument to clear out this civilian. Rescue that civilian instead. And this is a mistake I make all the time. But whenever you're rescuing and defeating, you are making progress on the mission. So that was 1, 2, 3 civilians that we've cleared so far, or rescued, as well as 1 thug. All right, Marrow's up next, except for that she has to wait, because now that we've played 3 hero cards to the timeline, the villains get to go with their second turn. So I'm going to draw from their deck. We got a Blob and Pyro card. So you can see Blob is moving 1 this time, Pyro is moving 2. They're both going to BAM. They have different BAM effects, which we've already gone over. And then Hard Punch says Blob deals an extra damage to 1 hero in his location. Well, fortunately, there aren't going to be any heroes in his location because I kept this area clear on purpose. Pyro is moving 2, as we kind of hoped he would do. Blob's BAM was to damage people, but there's no one there, and Pyro gets to fill the rightmost empty slot in both locations adjacent to him with crisis tokens, which again, I'm going to be using fire. So Strife Secret Base and Moor Island are both on fire now. And the secret base is actually one of the flammable materials locations, or the only remaining flammable materials location, meaning that will actually take 2 heroic actions to clear out instead of 1. But that ends the villain turn. But despite the fact that it's on fire, I don't think that does anything other than fill up that space. It's just a harder thing to clear out. It threatens overflows. So now Marrow can go, and her special mutant starting card is Dual Hearts. So as long as it's face up in the storyline, and if she's about to be KO'd, which would be if you have to discard your last card from your hand, she can instead flip this card over and draw a card. So once per game, basically, she can avoid being knocked out. But it only gives one heroic action. She also has a single attack card, and then that leaves us with a couple of bone weapons, which just give a move and then 2 attack, which is nice, but since it's in the top portion, it can't be shared. And the damage can be split between her own and adjacent locations. But with that move attached, I'm not too thrilled by it. She does get a heroic action and an attack from Blink. And I realized those cards shouldn't have gone to the bottom of that deck. They're supposed to go in the timeline as well. So there, that is corrected. Now you can see there was one, well, maybe you can't see quite, but there's one villain card, 3 hero cards, 1 villain card. And even if we were playing with a 2 or 3 player game, that pattern would persist until we've cleared out a mission, as you'll see later. I guess I will go ahead and play Marrow's Dual Hearts, get this heroic action started. So with 1 heroic here and 1 from Blink, we can put 2 onto this Leaping Foothold. Although I do want to be careful, I don't really want to finish it yet because the end of the turn effect is adding a thug and a civilian here, which isn't great. And then with the attack from Blink, she can clear out this thug. And she can rely on Blink later to move her around, probably. That brings us back to Nightcrawler. I think, oh, I drew his double wild, which is nice, but I don't feel like I need it. The double wild doesn't have any teleportation on it either. So I think I'm gonna play this Vamp On Guard card. You must move to any other location. It generates an attack, and then with Marrow's Dual Hearts, we're gonna have a single heroic as well. So kind of a weak turn. We can do this stuff in any order. So we're gonna clear 1 thug and then use the Bamf effect over to Pyro, again, hoping that he moves before he would do anything else. Although I guess he doesn't actually attack when he moves. Well, we don't know what the cards say. I don't know what all the cards in that deck do. But with a heroic, we'll clear out rescue another civilian. And that's the end of Nightcrawler's turn. So we go to multiple man for the last hero turn. He also drew a double wild. I think I actually might play the double wild. So I will drop a dupe, and I think this is a perfectly fine place to do it. But yeah, let's do the double wild for multiple man. I'm going to use the attack from Nightcrawler's card to fight this thug. Am I really going to use a movement? You know what? Never mind the double wild. I'm going to play this card here. Hopefully my face isn't covering that text, but it says move the 2 dupe tokens from locations adjacent to them. 2 locations adjacent to them. It also generates a move and a heroic. So I don't have to move multiple man. I can move this dupe to Krakoa and move this dupe to Muir Island, though he is generating a move for himself as well. I think with the heroic, I will put out the fire. Now the attack's not doing anything. All right, rewind that. I'm going to have him move first, then drop his dupe, then use the move dupe effect, and then the attack can clear this thug. Hopefully that made sense, but basically we had 4 things to do: an attack, a move, a heroic, and move 2 dupes. So and the 5 things is he can drop a dupe every turn. So I did the move, drop a dupe, move dupes, attack, and I haven't done the heroic. I think I'd like to make progress on this foothold. That way we can potentially attack Toad later on, sooner rather than later. That's 3 hero cards, so that brings us to the villain, and they get Toad and Pyro. Toad's moving 2, Pyro's moving 2. They're both bamming. And then Spreading Terror add a civilian in every location with no villain, which is going to be 1 more than usual because Toad's move 2 is going to put him in the same space as Blob. And then Pyro's move 2 will send him to Krakoa. Now we're going to do Toad's Bam for the first time. He moves a hero from an adjacent location to his and then deals 1 damage to them. So now Nightcrawler is in a hot water here. And we're taking our first damage of the game, which means discard 1 card to the bottom of your deck. And I think that's going to be a single attack, even though it has a teleport on it. But that's going to put him down to 2 cards in hand. And of course on his turn he will draw a 3rd card. But if you have no cards, you are knocked out. Which doesn't end the game. You get to come back into the game as well, but it's still not a good thing. Fortunately, Blob isn't attacking this turn. But Pyro is, well, not attacking, but bamming. Adding fire here and to the secret base. But there's actually no room, and that doesn't count as an overflow, so there's just no fire added there. Then we need to add civilians to every space without a villain, and that was 4. I mean, that gives us plenty of people to rescue, but we just don't want that overflow. So I haven't actually said what happens if we need to place a thug or civilian and we cannot. We trigger this overflow text on the villain dashboard, which says, draw a master plan card and add it face down to the storyline. So basically that would look like this: take a card and just put it face down onto the storyline, which seems like it doesn't do anything, except for that it does something, which is it runs the deck out. And if the villain deck runs out, that is one of the ways we can lose. After multiple man is blink, now you can see we do have one of our special text cards, warp portals. Move to any location, then you may move any heroes to your location. So she can go anywhere she wants and she can bring anyone she wants with her. But the only icon it provides is a single attack. She's also going to get the move and heroic from multiple man's last card. So now I'm thinking, what missions do I want to complete? Because I've just kind of been keeping things clear, but now is the part where you really want to start thinking about what missions to clear and when. So the text on the board here on the mat says, once one mission is cleared, it's actually a negative thing because a villain will act after every 2 hero cards instead of 3. So that's just strictly bad for us. When we complete the second mission, the villain becomes vulnerable to damage. So I would like to have both of Toad's leaping footholds gone by then. In fact, maybe that's the plan. Maybe the clear threats are going to be the one we already did, the 2 leaping footholds, one of which already has 2 icons filled and one of which has 1 icon filled so far. And then we'll need to do a 4th threat card to complete that mission. The fact that it's on the right is irrelevant. It's 1, 2, or 3 cleared. Position doesn't matter. Once we're able to damage the villains, then we can start damaging them with our attack symbols. Although again, Blob can't be damaged if he's on solid ground, which he's not currently, and Toad can't be damaged as long as either of the footholds are still there. Pyro is apparently a pushover. But yeah, if we do complete 3 missions, everybody gets to draw a card. So that's nice. So I think I'm going to play this simple card, a move and heroic, which actually matches the card that, or at least the symbols on it, that multiple man played. So Blink's going to get 2 moves and 2 heroic. So we're going to go 1, 2 movement and use the 2 heroic to fill up the leaping foothold threat, which means that's removed. And the end of turn effect on Moor Island is now available, which says another hero in this or an adjacent location draws a card. So as Blink ends her turn now, she can let multiple man draw an extra card. And clearing that threat gives us our second token there. Marrow drew a single move card, the literal worst. Most of her stuff is just attacking. And I don't want to spend her bone weapons until we can use all of that damage, start hitting villains with it. But I just don't see a better option. So we're going to play this, a move, and then 2 damage that can go to adjacent locations. We're going to use a move to go to Krakoa with Pyro. Before I do, I'm going to use the heroic from this Blink card to finish the leaping foothold. So that is cleared out, which means this 3rd token is here, and it means this location effect is active, but only if you end your turn there. So as long as our heroes don't end their turn here, we don't have to add a civilian and a thug. And then Marrow's only going to be able to use one of those bone weapon attacks on this adjacent thug because, of course, the villains can't take damage yet because we haven't done 2 missions. In fact, we've done 0. But we're almost there here as Nightcrawler takes his turn. There just aren't enough thugs to complete that mission. We need to hope for more thugs or we're never going to be able to complete that, which means I guess I got to pivot to rescuing the bystanders. And now realizing that this movement symbol was the worst icon to give Nightcrawler, who can move anywhere. But maybe that means it's a good time to use his double wild. He can use the move to move and then use the double wild for some heroics. Or you could do the heroics first. I don't think I care about that fire. What do I want my 4th mission to be? Or my 4th threat, rather, to clear in order to complete that clear threats mission. We got solid ground, solid ground. Both of the footholds are gone. So it just leaves the 2 solid grounds and the pyro threat. Well, Blob seems to be moving kind of slowly. So I'm going to just spend both of these wilds to add to this threat here. And I'm going to use the move to move Nightcrawler away. If Blob were on solid ground, we'd have to spend 2 movement to move away from him, but he's not on solid ground. I think that's good. Now our next hero will have 2 extra wilds to work with. But that's 3 heroes, so it's time for a villain card, which is everybody gets to go. Toad, Blob, and Pyro, and they all, bam, I'm not sure if they all move first or if they just go one at a time doing their move and bam. And I also don't know if it matters. So I'm going to move them all first. Toad goes to Krakoa. Blob goes to the Morlock tunnels. And Pyro goes to join the heroes at Mirror Island. Toad will grab an adjacent hero with his tongue, but there's nobody to grab. But then he does damage somebody who's with him, which is going to be Marrow. I'm happy for her to lose this single move card. I mean, I'm not happy. It's better to have more cards, but I don't care about losing that one in particular. Blob bams by attacking everyone in his location, which is nobody. And Pyro will put fire in the 2 adjacent locations. I wonder if I actually want to go to the Morlock tunnels in order to add thugs just so I can fight them and finish that mission. But anyway, it's now multiple man's turn. He's now got 5 cards. I'm going to play another spreading dupe card, move up to 2 dupe tokens to locations adjacent to them. But I think first I might make another dupe here and then move it to here. Maybe move this one to here and then use the move on that card he just played to move with Nightcrawler here. Then he's got 1, 2, 3 heroic. Clear this civilian, and clear this civilian. As you can see, position is not a huge deal with these heroes we've got. Multiple Man has copies of himself all over the map. Now Blink is going to play this double wild card. These are extremely powerful. You can see why they're taken out if you want a more challenging game mode. I think we're going to use the heroic from Multiple Man to clear this civilian. So there's only 1 remaining on that mission. I'm going to use the move there to go to Genosha and just put 2 progress on that mission. So I could have easily rescued 1 more civilian to finish a mission, or if I really wanted to, I could have gone over here and finished off that threat, or I could have not rescued that civilian and finished that threat. But as soon as you've completed 1 mission, as I said, the villain gets to activate after every 2 hero cards, and look, we've got 2 hero cards, so the villain would have taken the next turn. So I want Marrow to be able to take her turn before we switch over into villains activating more frequently. So I'm going to see if I can time it so that Marrow can finish 2 missions in 1 turn and make the villains vulnerable. And I think this double wild is going to help with that a lot. So a move and a damage is nice. She can't damage anybody yet. So I think we're going to be using Marrow's bone weapons. So first I'm going to, we'll play this card. We'll play the bone weapons. We're going to use 1 wild to rescue this civilian from Marrow's location. That's all 9. That is now completed. And as I said, the position doesn't really matter. So this text here says the villain acts after every 2 hero cards once that's unlocked. But now we're going to use that move on Marrow's card to move to Strife's secret base. We're going to use the second wild as an also heroic action to put the 3rd counter onto flammable materials threat, which clears that, which means we get this little skull token on the clear threats mission, which means it's completed. And just as I said in my example, we'll just slide this over to make it clear that now the villain is vulnerable to damage. And if we defeat 3 more thugs, then each hero would immediately draw a card. Now Marrow is over there at Strife's secret base, and she's still got the effect of bone weapons, which is to deal 2 damage, split as you like between your and adjacent locations. Well, she happens to be at an adjacent location to Toad, so she can hit him for 2 damage. He does not have anywhere to leap to because we already cleared those, so he takes 2 damage off his health, which started at 4, and now his little stack of 4 health is down to 2. But now it is absolutely definitely the villain phase, and they get to take their turn. Oops, that's a Toad and Pyro, so Toad gets 1 last stand here. Going over to here, there's no adjacent heroes for him to lash with his tongue. Pyro's going to move 2 over to Strife's secret base. Oh, and I forgot, Marrow should have had to do that end of turn effect at the Strife's secret base to discard an action token, and that would be one of these. You can gain these through some hero effect cards that you get to gain them and keep them to spend whenever you want. None of our heroes in this current game have that, so we're not being penalized. It's not a good effect. A lot of the locations have good effects. This one doesn't, but we're not penalized for it either. So Pyro's Bam is going to add some fire, and then we got this spread the fire. Pyro fills the rightmost empty slot in his location. All right, so we get another fire placed here, which fills that location, which is fine because now we've got a multiple man token as well as 2 fire. But at least we got rid of the flammable materials. Now it is Nightcrawler's turn, and now we're in damage mode. We just need to hit the bad guys as hard as we can. Clearing out a few more thugs would be fine too. Oh, and I just drew this card. Auf Wiedersehen, you must move to any other location, and then 2 attack. Well, that 2 attack would finish off Toad. That would also put Nightcrawler in the same location with Blob. And if we get a 0 move bam with Blob, that could be damage on Nightcrawler that I think we can afford. It's probably worth finishing off a villain. So that's 1 hero or 1 villain down who would be able to activate in the future. And that's setting up 2 damage symbols for our other heroes to be able to use. So let's go ahead and play Auf Wiedersehen, teleport Nightcrawler to the Morlock tunnels and hit Toad for 2 damage. Taking him out, this is last 2 health. He also gets to use this move. I wonder if he wants that or if he'd rather just stay there. If he stays there, he has to activate the Morlock tunnels, which I mentioned wanting to do so that we get more thugs to get that 3rd mission. But at this point, I don't think I want to pivot any damage into that mission. I don't want thugs. I'd rather just put all the damage on Blob and Pyro. And if I'm not going to be clearing them, I definitely don't want to be adding them. So I think I will use that move and send him here to Krakoa. Multiple Man's next with a big 5-card hand. Multiple Man play Duplication Absorption. That's going to give him a move and an attack, and he can remove as many dupe tokens from his location as he wishes and draw a card for each one. So I'm going to just have him put a dupe at Genosha where he is, and then immediately absorb that to draw a card. Then I'm going to use the movement and 1, 2, 3 attack to hit Pyro for 3 after moving there. And now Pyro's at 1. Multiple Man has to discard an action token, which he doesn't have. And he's got 5 cards in his hand. He's going to start next turn with 6, assuming he doesn't take any damage. Puts us at Blink's turn. So she's got move and attack, and warp portal everybody, or as many people as you want, single wild or single heroic. I am a little worried about Blob moving 1 because that's going to put him in the Savage Land where he still has some solid ground there. Only need 1 more damage on Pyro. I kind of want to move everybody over here, but I also am worried about... Oh, and you know what? I almost cheated. I forgot that it's every 2 hero turns as a villain. So Nightcrawler went, Multiple Man went. We're going to have to hold on for Blink for a moment as we draw a hero card, which is a Blob and Pyro. So Blob does move 0. He bams. Pyro moves 2, and his bam is going to add some fire here. I'm out of fire, so we'll just use a regular old crisis token. And then it says Brotherhood in action. Each of the 3 villains adds a thug to their location. All right, so there's our thugs. Toad is gone, so I'll just add 2 to the Morlock tunnels, just as we dreamed of, right? Now they've grouped up. We played another Blob move 0 card, so I'm thinking if he moves, it'll be at least 1. I don't know how many of each are in the deck, but it seems more likely at least. So maybe we can go here and beat them up a little bit. Marrow's next. She's got at least 1 damage in her hand. Hopefully she'll draw more. But I'm going to play the Warp Portal's attack card. So move to any location, move any heroes to your location. I think we're going to bring maybe everybody but Nightcrawler, because Nightcrawler can go wherever he wants. So we've got a grand melee going on there, but Blink is going to spend 1 of her attack points to do the last damage to Pyro, who is taken out. And that's just 5 more that needs to go to Blob. So Blink does have a second attack. 1 was from Multiple Man and 1's from her own card. Do we put it on Blob or take out a thug? Probably just hit Blob, right? So he's down to 4, which is what the other 2 started with. Marrow's next. I drew a single wild. So we just got single attacks for her either way. May as well make it a wild, just in case the next hero needs something that isn't an attack. So it's going to be 2 more damage to Blob, putting him down to 2. Blob gets to go next, and hopefully he's on this card. And he is. Move Toad and Pyro to Blob's location. And then bam. Oh, and Blob doesn't move. So I actually am punished for putting all my heroes here with him. So Blink, Marrow, and Multiple Man all take a damage. And then the bottom of that card said Brotherhood of Mutants add a civilian and a thug to the location opposite the villains. So the villains would all be here now. And the location opposite is going to be Genosha. I have to add a civilian and a thug. I don't know if I have to do it in that order. If I can choose that I would like a thug there rather than a civilian. But either way, the second one is going to be an overflow, which for the first time is going to trigger that overflow effect. You have to draw a master plan card and add it face down to the storyline. There are only 4 cards left in this deck, so it's a good thing we are finishing him off soon. Nightcrawler is next. He's getting 1 wild from Marrow. He didn't draw any attack. So maybe he's just going to be putting out fires. In fact, these are all the same card. There's definitely not going to be any more fires added now. But it's unfortunate he doesn't have any attack. I mean, he could use the wild as one attack, but it's kind of no point. You know what? I wonder if Blob does move one, he will be on solid ground, which will prevent all damage to him until he moves again. So maybe it makes sense to have Nightcrawler bamf into the Savage Land and use this symbol plus the wild to put 2 progress on that solid ground threat. Of course, if multiple man can't finish him off, and I happen to have the double wild for multiple man to finish him off for 2 damage. But even if I didn't do that, if I thought a little bit ahead, I would know multiple man was going next, or if you were playing cooperatively, you could be talking and multiple man player would say, hey, I can do 1 damage. So Nightcrawler, please do use that wild that Marrow gave you to do 1 of the damage, and I'll do the second one. So I don't feel guilty playing a 3rd double wild this game in order to do 2 more damage and finish off Blob, because Nightcrawler could have used the single wild, teleport in, maybe use a heroic action on the fire first, hit Blob for 1, and then multiple man has multiple ways to deal a single damage. But anyway, that is the playthrough of Marvel United. Again, these characters are all in the promos box for the X-Men. The locations and whatnot aren't necessarily. Some of them are from like Blue Team or Gold Team, which I don't think are available. But there are just so many characters, so much content, so many different ways to play. So this is just the standard 4-player co-op mode. But technically I played as 4 different players, but there's multiple ways to play solo. They're adding another one in this campaign. There are multiple ways to play PvP, and every villain and every hero is different. So I'll have a link in the description if you're interested. Let me know if you want to see more Marvel United on the channel in the future. Again, I've got mostly just X-Men. Stay tuned for other Marvel stuff. Thanks for watching. Subscribe so we can get more subscribers, and bye.